dad took photos of his non-clothed toddler for the doctor. Google flagged him as a criminal. This is from the New York Times, and this is an article. And if you've listened to other episodes, I've talked about this once before, where some guy was wrongfully accused of a crime based off Google location data because he rode his bike past a crime seconds after it happened and lived in the neighborhood and drove a car that was similar to the one that was seen. Yet the rest of the bike location literally proved that it was not or couldn't have been him. So this is some more Google technology messing with people and turning them into criminals when they're not actually criminals. Also, this is kind of like how I talked about before, and a lot of people were going up in arms about Apple scanning people's photos for this child stuff. Google's already doing it. So, mind you, this is only stuff that's uploaded to the cloud. So if you don't use Google Photos, then none of this stuff applies to you. They're not scanning, quote unquote, not scanning your photos, but you'll see why this is an issue. Google has an automated tool to detect abusive images of children, but the system can get it wrong, and the consequences are serious. Yes, they are. Mark noticed something amidst with his toddler. His toddler's Wing Wong looked swollen and was hurting him. Mark, a stay-at-home dad in San Francisco, grabbed his Android smartphone and took photos to document the problem so he could track its progress. See where the line starts beginning to get foggy? It was a Friday night, February 2021. His wife called an advice nurse at their healthcare provider to schedule an emergency consultation for the next morning by video because it was Saturday and there was a pandemic going on at the time, obviously. The nurse said to send photos so the doctor could review them in advance. So just gotta send some pictures of my child's Wing Wong to the doctor. No problem. Shouldn't be very hard. Shouldn't be anything wrong with that. No criminality there. My kid's Wing Wong hurts and we need some help. We'll see what happens. Mark's wife grabbed her husband's phone and texted the full high-quality close-ups of her son's groin area to her iPhone so she could upload them to the healthcare provider's messaging system. In one, Mark's hand was visible, helping to better display the swelling. I don't know why that necessarily matters, but Mark and his wife gave no thought to the high-tech giants that made this quick capture and exchange of digital data possible. Or those giants, what might those giants think about the picture that I just sent? Who knows? With help from the photos, the doctor diagnosed the issue and prescribed antibiotics, which quickly cleared up the issue. But the episode left Mark with a much longer and much bigger problem. One that would cost him more than a decade of contacts, emails, and photos, and make him the target of a police investigation. Mark, who asked to be identified only by his first name for fear of potential reputation harm, thank you Google for that, had been caught in an algorithmic net designed to snare people exchanging child bing bong accused material. Because technology companies routinely capture so much data, they have been pressured to act as sentinels, examining what passes through their servers to detect and prevent criminal behavior. Child advocates say that companies' cooperation is essential to combat the rampant online spread of child bing bong imagery. It can entail peering into private archives, such as digital photo albums, and instruct users may not expect. That has cast innocent behavior in a sinister light in at least 2 cases the Times have unearthed. A technology... Given the toxic nature of the accusations, the most people wrongfully flagged are not going to publicly say that this happens. Yes, if I'm flagged by Google for this child stuff, I'm not going to like go around and tell people that this happened. I don't want to be accused of it, even though I had been accused. So people who are affected by this, you're not hearing about it probably as much. It's probably because no one wants to publicly come out and say that they were that. A severe violation. After setting up a Gmail account in Mark, who is in his 40s, came to rely heavily on Google. This is where the walled garden of both Google and Apple start to come into play, and why it is very useful to back up your data and not just use one platform. He synced appointments with his wife on Google Calendar. His Android smartphone camera backed up his photos and videos to the Google Cloud. Please don't ever do that. This is how the fappening hack happened many, many years ago. A lot of the celebrities just upload their photos to iCloud, which can very accessibly be hacked very easily. He even had a phone plan on Google Fi. So not only was he using Google Drive, Google for their saving all of his contacts, saving all of his daily calendar stuff, he was also using Google Fi, which is a cell phone provider. So his cell phone provider was also through his Google account. Literally, basically every part of his technology was running through Google. So it's also kind of his fault for this happening, because this can happen. But Google shouldn't do this. 2 days after taking the photos of his son, Mark's phone made a notification sound. His account had been disabled because of harmful content. He was in a severe violation of Google's policies that might be illegal. And a learn more link led to a list of possible reasons, including child bing bong and bing bong bing bong. Mark was confused at first, but then remembered, oh yeah, Google probably thinks that was not good content, that pictures of my son's infection. In an unusual twist, Mark had worked as a software engineer on a large tech company's automated tool for taking down video content flagged by users as problematic. Slightly off about why this guy's reporting it, but it makes sense on why a guy like this would report it, because he feels confident in his ability to fight it. But if someone who isn't confident in the ability to fight Google's accusations and doesn't know how to, then they probably wouldn't go to journalists and tell them that this is happening to them. But it is slightly sus that this is the guy. He's a software engineer, and has worked literally in the automation of taking down problematic videos, so slightly sussy there, but he knew such systems often had a human in the loop to ensure that the computers did not make a mistake, and he assumed that this case will be cleared up as soon as possible. Not with Google, baby. Google does not do shit. He filled out a form requesting a review of Google's decision explaining his son's infection. At the same time, he discovered that the domino effects of Google's rejection. Not only did he lose emails, he lost contact information for friends and former colleagues, and documentation of his son's first years of life. His Google Fi account was also shut down, meaning he had to get a new phone number with another carrier. Without access to his old phone number and email address, he couldn't get the security codes he needed to sign into other internet accounts. So he literally got completely fucked. He can't sign into anything. He can't get into his old Google accounts because those are all done. He can't use his cell phone or his old phone number to get those double authentication codes because that phone number is now shut down. This is a great quote from him. The more eggs you have in one basket, the more likely the basket is going to break. Couldn't be any more fucking true. In a statement, Google said, blah, 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 okay. A few days after Mark filed the appeal, Google responded that it would not reinstate the account with no further explanation. That sounds like a Google response if I've ever heard one before. Mark didn't know it, but Google's review team had also flagged the video and made the San Francisco Police Department already investigated had already investigated him. So into more of the investigation. In December 2022, Mark received a manila envelope in the mail from San Francisco Police Department. It contained a letter informing him that he had been investigated as well as a copy of search warrants served to Google and his internet service provider. An investigator whose contact information was provided had asked for everything: Mark's Google account, his internet search location, his messages, and any document, photo, video he had stored on the company. Yeah, okay, buddy. Like, I'm going to give that to the police. The search related to child Bing Bong videos had taken place in February, within a week of him taking the photos of his son. So literally within a week of him taking those photos and uploading them to Google, there was already a police investigation going on, which I guess is good for when it's actually an issue, but when it's a false flag like this, like, goddamn. Mark called the investigator who was on his case, but the phone number and email address that the investigator was trying to get in contact with him earlier obviously was not working because of the incident. I determined that the incident did not meet the elements of a crime and that no crime had occurred. The police had access to all the information Google had on Mark and decided it did not constitute child abuse or exploitation. Mark asked him if Hillard could tell Google that he was innocent so he could get his account back. You have to talk to Google for that, the investigator said. There is nothing I can do. I'm sure that's going to go well. Mark appealed his case to Google again, providing the police report to no avail. After getting a notice 2 months ago that his account will be permanently deleted, Mark spoke to a lawyer about suing Google, and that's not going to happen. I decided it was probably not worth the $7,000. No, I agree. All right, where's the last part that we want to talk about? Guilty by default. This is, Law professor said that the cooperation of technology companies provide to law enforcement to address and root out child stuff is incredibly important, but she thought it should allow for corrections. From Google's perspective, it's easier to just deny these people to use their services. Otherwise, the company would have to resolve more difficult questions about what's appropriate behavior with children and then what's appropriate to photograph or not. Mark still has hope that he can get his information back. The San Francisco police have the contents of his Google account preserved on a thumb drive. Mark is now trying to get a copy. A police spokesman said the department is eager to help him. Nico Grant contributed. I don't have to rant very much because I've already talked about this stuff enough, but it's happening. There's people being falsely accused of crimes because Google and Apple and other big tech giants are cooperating with the police and willingly giving up all of your location, your chat message data, your call data, everything. They will just willingly. Whoop. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, please. And speaking of putting all your eggs in one basket,